If you are over 60 and you think dementia is something that only starts to matter once your memory begins to slip, I want you to listen very carefully, because by the time the forgetting begins, the disease has already been quietly building inside your brain for 10, 20, even 30 years. The real chance to protect yourself is right now, while everything still feels normal. Here is what nobody tells you. You can cut your dementia risk almost in half, even if you have terrible genetics, even if your mother or father had it, even if your grandparents had it. And what I'm about to share with you is not based on guesswork. It is based on hard data from studies of over 277,000 people. Stay with me, because if you miss the very first system I'm about to explain, you'll miss the single biggest factor in this entire video. But first, you need to understand why your brain is more vulnerable now than it ever has been. My name is Dr. Ember. I'm a senior health specialist with 13 years of clinical experience working with patients over 60. In those 13 years, I've sat across from countless men and women terrified that the disease they watched destroy a parent or a sibling is coming for them next. And I've seen with my own eyes who escapes that path and who doesn't. Today, I'm not going to give you generic advice. I'm going to tell you exactly what I would tell my own mother if she were sitting across from me right now. Here is the truth nobody talks about. After 60, your brain becomes more sensitive to every signal it receives. Every meal, every night of sleep, every walk, every conversation, every glass of wine, your body is always listening. The question is, what signals are you sending it? There is something called the apogenotype. That is just the medical term for a gene that helps your brain handle fats and clear out waste. Some people inherit a version of that gene that increases their Alzheimer's risk by up to 12 times. 12 times. And I'll be honest with you, when I see that result on a patient's lab work, it can be frightening. But here is what changed my entire view of this disease. A susceptibility is not a destiny. It only means your brain is more sensitive to the inputs you give it. And we now have powerful evidence on what those inputs really are. A landmark report published in the journal The Lancet found that up to 45% of dementia cases worldwide could be prevented by addressing specific lifestyle and health factors. And when several of those factors are addressed at the same time, some analyses show a risk reduction of more than 50%. That means even someone with a strong family history is not locked in. After 13 years in practice, I've learned that the people who succeed at protecting their brains don't think in terms of small habits. They think in terms of systems. There are 4 core systems in the brain that decide whether it becomes more resilient or more vulnerable as you age. Each one responds to very specific signals. And here's where it gets interesting. System 1, the brain's cleaning system, the biggest single factor. The first system, and the one most seniors completely ignore, is your brain's cleaning system. There is a pathway called the glymphatic system. That is just the medical name for the rinse cycle that runs inside your brain every single night. Its job is to flush out metabolic waste, including a sticky protein called beta-amyloid. And beta-amyloid is one of the key proteins that builds up in Alzheimer's disease. In other words, if your brain cannot clean itself properly at night, the garbage starts to pile up. And after years of poor sleep, that buildup becomes the foundation of dementia. How important is this? A massive meta-analysis pulled together 43 large studies covering more than 277,000 people. Researchers wanted to know which single lifestyle factor carried the strongest link to dementia. The answer shocked even the researchers. Sleep disruption. People with significant sleep problems had a 57% higher risk of dementia compared to people who slept well. That was higher than inactivity, higher than high blood pressure. Sleep was the single most powerful factor in the entire analysis. Now, the key word here is quality, not just hours. 7 hours of broken, restless sleep is not the same as 7 hours of deep, uninterrupted sleep. The deepest stage of sleep, called slow wave sleep, is when your brain's cleaning system is most active. And unfortunately, that is the exact stage that gets disrupted as you age. So what do you do about it? First, if you snore loudly or your spouse has ever told you that you stop breathing at night, please talk to your doctor about sleep apnea. It is extremely common after 60, it is very treatable, and it is one of the first things I screen for in my own patients. Beyond that, consistent bed and wake times matter enormously. Your cleaning system runs on a 24-hour clock. Irregular timing throws it off even when your total hours look fine. There is a simple framework I share with my patients called the 3-2-1 rule. 3 hours before bed, stop eating. Your gut and your brain compete for resources, and late eating fragments your sleep. 2 hours before bed, no more liquids. That cuts nighttime bathroom trips. 1 hour before bed, no phones, no television, no computer screens. Blue light shuts down melatonin, the hormone that tells your brain to power down. And one more honest word about alcohol. Even 1 or 2 drinks at night directly impairs that brain cleaning system. Alcohol is also a diuretic, which means more nighttime awakenings. It may help you fall asleep faster, but it sabotages the recovery your brain depends on. After 13 years of practice, I've never met a senior who improved their memory while still drinking nightly. System 2, the brain's growth system, yes, you can still grow brain cells. The second system is something most seniors are told is impossible: brain growth. There is a protein in your brain called BDNF, short for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your neurons. It keeps existing brain cells alive, strengthens the connections between them, and drives neurogenesis, which is the actual creation of new brain cells in a region called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is your brain's memory center. It is the part that forms new memories and organizes old ones, and it is also the very first region damaged in Alzheimer's disease. But here is the beautiful part. The hippocampus is one of the few areas of the adult brain where new neurons can keep growing for the rest of your life. The catch? You have to send it the right signal. And the most powerful signal we know of is aerobic exercise. A randomized controlled trial showed that just 1 year of moderate aerobic exercise can increase hippocampus volume by 2%. That single change reverses 1 to 2 years of age-related shrinkage. And exercise is doing much more than just releasing BDNF. It increases blood flow to the brain, which means more oxygen and more nutrients with every heartbeat. It lowers inflammation, which is directly tied to dementia. And it improves how your brain handles insulin, which connects to the third system I'll show you in a moment. Now, I want to be absolutely clear. You do not have to run marathons. A meta-analysis of 15 studies found that any physical activity at all was linked to a 38% lower risk of cognitive decline. A landmark JAMA neurology study put exact numbers on it. The peak benefit came at around 9,800 steps a day, which was tied to a 50% reduction in dementia risk. But even the minimum dose of around 3,800 steps a day, roughly a 30-minute walk, still lowered risk by about 25%. The biggest jump in protection comes from simply going from sitting to walking. That gap is where most of the magic happens. System 3, the most overlooked system, your blood vessel. The third system is the one I spend the most clinical time on, and it is the one almost nobody talks about. Your vascular system, specifically the blood vessels that carry oxygen from your heart to your brain. Here's a fact most people don't know. Your brain is only 2% of your body weight, but it uses 20% of the blood your heart pumps with every beat. It is the most blood-hungry organ you have. When those vessels start to degrade, your brain slowly stops getting what it needs. This is a quiet, invisible process. It can come from years of high blood pressure. It can come from chronically high blood sugar. It can come from low-grade inflammation. And after a certain point, the damage becomes nearly impossible to reverse. Blood pressure is especially dangerous. Chronic hypertension damages the tiny vessels that feed something called white matter. White matter is your brain's internal wiring. It is the cable system that lets different parts of your brain talk to each other. When those vessels fail, white matter lesions begin to accumulate, and communication between brain regions slows down. That is one direct path to a condition called vascular dementia. Here is the part most seniors are never told. Midlife hypertension, meaning elevated blood pressure in your 40s and 50s, carries a greater long-term dementia risk than high blood pressure later in life. Why? Because the damage has been silently building for 20, 30, even 40 years by the time it shows up on a memory test. The same logic applies to blood sugar. Insulin resistance, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes damage the same vessels and drive neuroinflammation, which is just inflammation inside the brain itself, after 13 years in practice. I can tell you the patients who protect their brains the best are the ones who also protect their hearts. Aggressive management of blood pressure, blood sugar, and early markers of inflammation is one of the most powerful brain protection strategies we have. System 4 cognitive reserve, and the best sport to prevent dementia. The fourth system gets dismissed sometimes because it sounds soft, but I promise you it is not. It is called cognitive reserve. The idea is simple. Throughout your life, every time you learn a new skill, take on a hard problem, or step into an unfamiliar domain, your brain builds extrasynaptic connections and alternative pathways. It is like installing backup wiring, more routes for signals to travel when something gets damaged. And researchers have found cases of people whose autopsy brains showed full Alzheimer's pathology, amyloid plaques and tangles, the whole picture, yet they remained mentally sharp until the day they died. Why? Their brains had built enough reserve to compensate for the damage. You build that reserve by consistently challenging your brain. Learn an instrument, pick up a new language, take a class, read difficult material. Your brain, just like your muscles, responds to demand. But if you want one single activity that combines almost every benefit we've talked about, I recommend racket sports. Tennis, pickleball, badminton, table tennis. A long-term study out of Copenhagen followed more than 8,500 people for up to 25 years and compared life expectancy gains across different sports. Tennis came in first. It was linked to nearly 10 additional years of life compared to sedentary people. Badminton was second at 6.2 years. Both beat jogging, swimming, and cycling. Why? Because racket sports stack multiple brain demands on top of each other. You get physical exertion, rapid decision-making, hand-eye coordination, spatial awareness, and most importantly, social connection. You cannot play tennis or pickleball alone. And research has shown the team element of a sport is independently linked to better cognition in midlife and beyond, even after adjusting for total exercise. The same research group found that low physical activity was tied to a 60% increased risk of non-Alzheimer's dementia, and this was true regardless of apogenetics. That is the part I want you to hold on to. Even with bad genes, movement still protects your brain. So here is the truth after 13 years of watching this play out in real patients. Your genetics matter, but they are not the final word. Your sleep, your movement, your blood vessels, and your willingness to keep challenging your mind matter more. Your age is not a weakness. Your knowledge is your power. Everything I have shared today is general health information based on 13 years of clinical experience and published medical research. Every person's situation is different. Before making any changes to your sleep, exercise, or medications, please consult your own doctor. If this video helped you or someone you love, share it. That one share might save a life. Subscribe to Dr. Ember for more honest senior health insights every week. Take care of yourselves, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.